Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeff Sky here, talking about climate change, polyamory, marriage, kids, religion. I know this is a little bit different than my other videos in regards to sticking to the science. I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a artistic tangent here. But I just kind of want to say that, we are at the point now with climate change that we do need to look past the science and we actually need to start making some decisions. And I know the decisions of how you have your family life and how you conduct your life with kids and stuff is a huge decision. And I want to have kids. Maybe I should have said that in the previous video. I do want to have kids. I want to have a wife and kids. But it's just in light of this information, I don't necessarily feel comfortable with it. So, we all have that primitive urge to pass on our genetic material, and we all think, we have something special that we want to pass on, and that's fine. I suppose if I don't have kids, that'll be one less problematic kid in the classroom, but maybe one less cool guitar player. But, that being said, there's a little bit of a stigma, I feel like, especially between the baby boomers and millennials. I'm 30 now, so it's like, you kind of, I get the questions all the time. When are you getting married? You're going to settle down, have kids? And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm getting to it. You just the generic answer, and it's like, well, probably not really, but, and if you talk to millennials about it, they're totally understanding. In fact, there's projections that only 70% of millennials will ever get married versus baby boomers, 90% got married. So that's a huge drop in a very short period of time. And who's to say that number won't even be less? There's some projections that'll say only 2/3 of American millennials will ever get married, and even less than that. And of course, in those married couples, there's going to be some married couples that don't have kids. So, the thing that we try to explain to baby boomers is, we're still in debt from college. It's like we're coming into our 30s and it's like we already have a mortgage, but we don't have any equity. So it's hidden inflation, right? It's back to that idea I kind of explained before about how do we have a dollar menu and we have $50,000 a year education. It's hidden inflation, right? Inflation and how inflation is being handled by the governments and economic systems. It's being channeled directly into specific areas and being left out of other areas. And that's really done a lot through subsidies, leveraged exchange traded funds. There's all type issuing bonds, how the treasury works in terms of 10-year versus 30-year treasury yields. There's all types of things that are done to channel inflation into certain areas and away from other areas. So, as Jim Rickards would say, it's like we're poised on the knife's edge between inflation and deflation. And really, I would actually go beyond what Jim Rickards says in terms of I think we actually are seeing deflation and inflation simultaneously in different sectors of the economy. Now, I know climate change and the economics are a little bit different, but it's all tied into resources and how resources get managed, and climate affects resources. And resources is really what drives the economy, resources and energy is part of resources. So I know this is a lot to think about and probably overthinking it in terms of just, your own personal decision about how you conduct your life. But, even people that I talk to on a regular basis, who maybe don't go as deep into it as I do, can still tell something's wrong intuitively. They're just like, something's off. Something doesn't seem to be going right. And I guess even beyond that, it's like if you have $100,000 in debt and when you're 30 years old, it's like, yeah, something definitely is wrong, because how am I ever going to afford a kid on top of having all this debt, let alone a house or a car? So all that being said, I think there are creative solutions to that if we are open-minded. I was raised a Methodist. I think there's a lot of great things about religion. I'm happy that I had some sort of structural religion as a kid in terms of, it taught me how to be part of a community and help the homeless. And I did mission trips of building houses for the poor in Kentucky. So, there's a lot of really good things I took out of my kind of Christian upbringing, even though I'm not a Christian anymore, or religious at all for that matter. Although I have a deep respect for Buddhism and Eastern religion, I would just consider myself more spiritual these days. But before Christianity, we had paganism, and in paganism, polyamory was acceptable. And there's been other religions throughout the world where polyamory was acceptable. And when I say the word polyamory to people who are really conservative or maybe stuck in, really into their nuclear relationships, nuclear families and households, it doesn't necessarily have to have a sexual connotation to it. Like, sure, we we all sort of fantasize about that. That's definitely a perk of having multiple sexual partners. But I do know polyamorous people who actually don't have sex with some of their polyamorous partners. They actually just do it for that communal structural, that communal life, and having multiple generations all interacting, right? Because that's the problem too. Is so much. So, and when we go to college, we're only with college-age students, right? We miss that wisdom from our grandparents. We miss that playfulness and energy from young kids. So it's like, there are other reasons besides sex that people get into polyamory. And I think as economic and resource constraints happen, it's going to take multiple incomes to raise a kid. So just because you don't have a kid, you could still have a meaningful impact on a child's life by financially contributing to that kid's life and spending time with them. So I think that is going to become more commonplace in the future. And I think millennials are very open-minded to it. I know dozens that maybe they wouldn't call themselves polyamorous, but they're certainly living that lifestyle. And I think ultimately it might actually make us happier. We're going to be less lonely, And here's the thing, I think actually I still keep up with a lot of my Christian friends. A lot of Christian friends appreciate me because I actually know quite a bit of religious history. A lot of Christians don't even know about the Council of Nicaea or the King James Version of the Bible, or some of these, other things that sort of got swept under the rug in what we now call the Bible, right? But ultimately, those were humans, making those decisions about what went into the Bible and what didn't. And I'm not saying that they had, misintentions in terms of what books to include and which ones not to, but there were books that weren't included that had much more Eastern ideas incorporated into them. And with some of those ideas were things like meditation, which is, something you don't really ever hear about in church, but meditation is so good for us. And it's such a good way to connect to whatever you want to call God. But it's not part of the curriculum. So, like I said, I am happy for my religious upbringing, and I want to stay spiritual throughout my life. And if I have, kids in my life in the future, whether they be my own or from a, polyamorous partner, I want to bring spirituality into their lives as well. But I think it's just a matter of being more open-minded in terms of how we frame things and what a relationship with something bigger than ourselves actually is. The other thing is, as a lot of you know, I post music on here, and I play a lot of classic rock, so obviously I spend a lot of time with baby boomers. Being a millennial, most bands that I've played in, are baby boomers, and I play a lot of Grateful Dead and Eric Clapton and Rolling Stones and all that stuff. So I've seen it, and when I go out and play shows, I'm meeting baby boomers, right? Because they're the ones who come out and listen to us. So I've met a lot of baby boomers who have gotten divorced, and the problem with monogamous marriage is like, God, when you get divorced and that woman or that man, your partner from that monogamous relationship was the only person in your life, and now you're divorced, those people end up so lonely because, you have your kids, obviously, but your kids are growing up and they got their own lives, and then you end up losing a lot of social capital by putting all your energy into one partner versus, in a more polyamorous environment, God forbid something goes wrong with one of your partners, which obviously no one wants to happen. You do have a network of people versus one person, which is, I think, a lot better for our mental health. The other thing about it, too, is that by bringing in new people to your lives, when there is some slight romantic contentions, I think it keeps you motivated to stay in shape and stay interesting. When I've been in several multi-year monogamous relationships, and once I'm in the relationship, I'm like, I can get fat now. I can watch TV every night because I don't have to impress women anymore. And like, obviously, we all want to impress our partners, but you're not going to try as hard once you're in a relationship versus when you're gunning to get into a relationship. So, just some thoughts here, I guess one other thing too is that from some of my historical readings on religion, that there was some intention for religion to be a economic driver, in the sense that by creating nuclear families, every household would have to buy the same items over and over again, versus in a more village polyamorous setting, you can share stuff. So there's not as much consumerism with polyamory as there is with monogamy. So just some things to think about. Like I said, I know this is a point of contention, and I understand if not everyone agrees or if you're more conservative, but like I said, I am still open-minded to monogamous nuclear relationship with nuclear families. I don't see it as being really practical going forward with what we're facing. So just some food for thought, and hope you all enjoyed this. Jeff Sky here, and I'm finishing this video just as this beautiful thunderstorm comes in from the west. Look at that. So hope you all have a good day.